Hi everybody, it's Nikki here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we are going to be talking about probably one of the most controversial things in the entire transgender community that really gets people's bloods going. And from the results of my last video in terms of how many people commented on it, thank you for that, this thing's gonna explode, I think. And so I've been thinking about how I wanted to do this video for an extremely long time because this is a blood-boiling kind of conversation that we're about to have here, that opinions run high. You either are for it or against it. There seems to be like no in between on it. And I wanted to do this video because I wanted to go more into the controversial transgender topics and try to talk about what makes me, me, what my opinions are, what are my values. And so I feel that this is a good one to follow up my last video with because this is a controversial topic. And so let us get into why I do not want the SNP. And we are going to be covering that. However, there are a couple of things that I have to omit for monetization and YouTube purposes, because if I talked about all of this stuff, this video would be banned instantly, basically. And I just wanted to cover it in a brief overview and then talk about some of the opinions relating to it. Now, let's get into this video. However, remember to like and subscribe, leave us comments in the comment section, hit the notification bell to never miss a video, give a super thanks if you're feeling extra, and let's get into why I do not want the SNP. Now, before we get into this video, I thought to include a disclaimer because based off the comments from my last video, people kind of mistook where I was going with that video, and so I wanted to do a disclaimer to kind of talk about where I want to go with this video. Now, this video is talking about an extremely controversial topic that a lot of people have opinions on, and it's something that gets the blood going. However, there's a lot of stuff kind of in the middle of that conversation that I want to talk about. I will be quickly glossing over how they do the surgery. However, I am not a medical expert. My degree is in marketing. I do not know how they do it. I have looked it up just so I can understand it, but that's about the basis of my knowledge. Then I'm also going to be talking about some of the negatives and consequences and the positives about this surgery, talking about why trans girls feel that they need it and why trans girls feel that they don't need it. This is not saying that you should not do this surgery, and this is not saying that you should go out and do this surgery. This is very much a personal opinion and a personal choice. As much as transition is all about choice, this is the biggest choice that you can make. And I'm also be including a small segment about why I do not want the SNP, because I feel that that's good for getting my own opinions and my own values out so people can understand what I stand for, because we're all opinions. And so I love all of you, even my haters, even everybody who thinks I am a horrible transgender person for saying I'm not a woman from the last video. However, I just want to give my opinions on this, and let's get into the video. Okay, now, what is bottom surgery and why do they call it the SNP? So, bottom surgery, and there's a lot of acronyms here. There's GRS, GCS, SRS. There's a lot of terms. SRS stands for sexual reassignment surgery. GCS stands for gender confirming surgery. GRS stands for gender reassignment surgery. They all roughly mean the same thing, and I've seen these terms all interchangeably used. However, the official name for this surgery really falls into like multiple categories, such as an orchiectomy or a vaginoplasty. But these relate to sexual reassignment surgery because it's changing your sexual organs around. That's why they call it SRS. And they call it bottom surgery because it's down there. Now, essentially, it is going to be the process where you remove the male part and turn it into a female part. That's basically what it means. It means taking male anatomy and turning it into the closest thing you can to female anatomy. That's what the surgery is, and it's most basic form. I'm not going to go into all of the details. However, this surgery changes a lot about you, and there's a lot of new things that happen in your life because of the surgery. So I wanted to kind of quickly go over like what's involved. Now, as I've talked about in other YouTube videos, getting insurance requirements for surgeries is kind of a big thing and a very long process that's also very expensive too for getting transitional surgeries covered by insurance. This surgery is very expensive. This is not a cheap surgery. This is, I don't know pure values. If you have values, put them down in the comment section, but this is not an expensive surgery. And insurance for requirement for this, and it's there's a lot of requirements because there's a lot of negative side effects for this surgery, is very intense. Multiple therapy sessions, there's a lot of prep work for it. You have to go through a lot of laser hair and electrolysis down there because they don't want the hair growing in weird places. And there's also the lead up to the surgery, such as like an orchiectomy where they remove the male testes, and then there's the vaginoplasty itself. And I'm not going to go into detail how that works. It's basically a split pull. That's the most basic level what it is. And there's a lot of very unique things. However, what they do have to do is they do have to create a hole inside of your body to reroute a lot of your urinary tract. That's the most I'm going to go into this surgery. Like, if you want to look it up, it's really fascinating, and I will provide a link in the description to a place where you can go and learn about this. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people are going to be commenting about how they do it in the comment section, so thank you. And that's essentially what it is that you are removing the male outer anatomy and turning it into female anatomy. You're basically going from an outie to an innie, and you essentially end up with a closest thing to a vagina as possible. And that's essentially what bottom surgery is. And there's a lot of complex stuff, there's a lot of healing involved, and the surgery itself is pretty intense. Like, I've watched videos on it. It's pretty amazing how they do it. I will just say that. It's very amazing how they do it. It's also a very specialist surgery, so there's not a whole lot of specialists for it. I don't know of any names off the top of my head, so you would have to go look them up. However, it's a pretty intensive surgery when you really get down and thinking about how many like nerve endings are down there, and like, you know, that's essentially like a sexual organ that you are rechanging around. So it's pretty amazing how they do it. But I'm going to move on from this section and talk about some of the consequences and why people want to get this surgery. Okay, now let's talk about some of the reasons as to why trans girls want this surgery. So we'll talk about why they want it first, and then we'll go into why they don't want it second. So I've talked to enough trans women, and I've seen enough YouTube videos and Instagram postings and stories and videos, all that stuff, talking about this, is that to a lot of transgender girls, gender dysphoria, as I've talked about here, affects us all in varying levels. However, my gender dysphoria was connected to my facial hair, not down there. I've talked to some trans girls where before they've gotten the surgery, they had to go to the bathroom in dark rooms because they could not look at it. They could not touch it. They didn't want to touch it. They could not have sex in lighted rooms. They had to do it in dark rooms. They had a massive phobia about their male anatomy. They had massive phobias about it. And to them, it was one of those things of like, they transitioned and one of their first goals was to get rid of that because they hated it so much. So that's a good candidate for who would be considered a candidate for SRS. There's also a lot of other trans girls I've talked to, especially older ones too, it seems like a lot of older ones, where they feel that they cannot be a woman with the male anatomy still down there, where they still feel like a man, they still feel like a boy, and they need to remove that in order to be true to themselves and feel like a true woman, which is a very interesting topic, I think. I've seen this a lot with like older transgender girls where they have decided, you know what, I've had all my kids, I've done all my uses for my male part, I've gone through all of that stuff, let's get rid of it now because it serves no purpose. Because due to HRT, essentially you become sterile. Like, I am sterile, I do not produce sperm anymore due to one of the pills, spironolactone, and thus I cannot bear children. And so one trans girl I talked to was like, you know what, it doesn't serve its function anymore, so there's no reason for me to have it because they've already had their kids, so it doesn't need to be there. They don't need that essential part of their body in order to produce children because they've already had their kids, and so they're just like, you know what, I'm good, let's get rid of it. Now, on the downside of it, where people don't want to get, is that it really depends on your comfortability level. So in my instance right now, HRT has shrunken my male anatomy pretty well, and so very quickly just tucking it and tucking underwear, I can get by, you know, a flat surface down there. That's essentially what I do. You know, I tuck all the time. I wear tight jeans, you know, leggings are a little bit weird, but for the most part I tuck, and so I don't really see the need to remove it because it also still functions and it still works. I am able to go to the bathroom in roughly 15 to 30 seconds. There's no issues down there. There's no problems down there. Yes, it's always going to be there, but it's not something that I really worry about. Then there's also the concept of like trans girls remove it because they feel that they cannot be true in a sexual setting with that. Now, this kind of comes down to a lot of the transgender chasers, which I should make a video on, but essentially transgender chasers, as I've talked about in other videos, see trans women as a way to experience the male anatomy without being considered gay. They don't want to be considered gay. They see themselves as like straight men, but they want to test out what male anatomy tastes like. And so in our worlds, they see transgender girls as mostly female. There's like a weird like percentage split in their minds where they're like, okay, this girl looks like a chick. She has the male anatomy, but it's not gay because it's with a chick. One girl I talked to had a lot of sexual partners where they wanted her to top them. And she's like, no, that's not what I want to do. That's not my intention and goal here. And so she feels that she needs to remove it in order to be true in a sexual setting where a man can be the top no matter what, and she can no longer perform that role. And so she wants to remove it. There's a lot of reasonings as to why people want this surgery. There's a lot of reasons as to why people don't want this surgery. And we're going to go into the next section of some of the benefits and positives and some of the consequences and potential problems that result from this surgery. And so let's get into the next section. So we are going to get into some of the positives and the negatives of the after effects of this surgery, kind of giving everybody a very good overall definition of what to kind of expect after the surgery if you choose to have this. And so we'll start with positive first. A lot of the transgender girls I've talked to have always said that there is a big relief in their bodies after they get this surgery done. Like they can finally be a woman, and a lot of their eyes is that they can finally be a true female themselves without the male anatomy down there. Hated their male anatomy, and so having the vagina and having nothing down there, having a smooth surface down there is something that they are 100% happy with, and they believe that it is necessary for them to have that. And so a lot of them have seen a lot of positive self-esteem changes, because self-esteem is a big thing when it comes to transition. And they see it like, I am now fully complete and a woman. That's how they view it. Now let's go into some of the after effects and the negatives of this surgery. Now, probably one of the biggest side effects that I've seen is that essentially what they do during the surgery is they have to create a new hole for the vagina to be created, and they have to do it. I don't know where they do it. It's very interesting. I've never looked this part of the surgery up. So if you want to talk about the medical descriptions of this, please do. This would be helpful. However, where they put it, and they have to reroute the urinary tract through it and all that stuff. The problem is that you have to keep that hole open because your body views it as a wound. So for me, I am born male. My body is very, very much male in a lot of senses. Well, I have a prostate, that's a big one. Men have prostates, women don't. My body does not see it as a vagina, it sees it as a wound to close. It sees it as, I need to close this because this is not healthy. And so to combat that, you have to do this thing called dilating, where you take this tool, essentially, I'm not gonna talk about it, but they have to keep the hole open. And according to the Mayo Clinic, a very accredited hospital, you have to dilate it multiple times a day for basically a whole year. So a lot of your first year is gonna be about dilating, and you'll probably get a system involved where you can do it fairly easily. However, dilating is a timely process, and it's essential because if you do not dilate, the hole will close, cutting off your ability to go to the bathroom. Now, I do not know how they reopen it. I do not know any of that stuff. And I want to kind of gloss over this stuff because I'm not an expert on this subject right here. But if you want to talk about how they reopen it and like what's involved with the whole processing of closing and reopening that, the new hole, please comment in the comment section, okay? Now, there's also the concept of like young transgender girls getting the surgery done and having a lot of regret. This regret is mostly kind of come down to you lose the ability to bear children. Like for me right now, and there's a good documented case with Gigi Gorgeous where they have been on HRT for like 10 plus years. They've never had SRS surgery and they still have their male anatomy, and they recently just got their transgender husband pregnant because they got off spironolactone and they re-stimulated semen growth inside of their body, and so she can have her child. That is something that could possibly happen with me. I have read into that. However, if I undergo SRS, I will never have that. So it completely seals the deal. Like right now, I'm almost reversible in a lot of that sense. But if I get SRS, there's no way that'll ever happen because it's gone and it's not coming back. They can't reattach it. Probably one of the big things with this, especially with the younger girls, where like I've seen like a 20-year-old girl get it done and then they have regret like 2 years later. It's like, oh, I got it done. I went through all this stuff. I've had to dilate multiple times a day. It's taken a lot of time and effort into it, and it's not really worth it. That's your opinion to make, and that's your choice to make. However, I'm not going to make that choice for you. I just wanted to bring light to this topic because this is controversial and this changes a lot about your body. Okay, now let's go into why I don't want the surgery and a no holds bar on my opinions. For this section of the video, I wanted to go into my personal opinions about it and why I do not want it done. Now, as I've said throughout this entire video, this video is not designed as to be a you should get this done or a you should not get this done. If you feel that this is a surgery that you want to pursue as part of your transition, go for it, honey. No one's stopping you. I just don't see it as necessary for me. And I'm going to get into this section. However, we as humans have opinions. We all have our thoughts. We all have our biases. And this is going to be my opinions, and I respect your opinion. Please respect mine. If you do not like this, skip forward to the next section using the timestamps in the description of the video, and let's get into this. Now, do I want SRS? Fuck no. There's no effing way I will ever do SRS surgery for a couple of main key points. Number one, and this is why I wanted to do my Why I'm Not a Woman video, is that in that video comments, a lot of you said some pretty amazing scientific like explanations of how I'm technically a woman now due to HRT. However, the thing that I want to talk about is that while HRT does change a lot of your body structure and how it like functions and how it does develop the breast tissue and how it does change a lot of stuff, the thing it doesn't change is it does not change your internal organs. I still have my male reproductive system. I was born a natural male with nothing wrong. I was a perfectly healthy natural male. I still have my male reproductive organs. I have the urinary tract routed through my male anatomy. That's what I have. I have a prostate. Men have prostates. And the thing is that if I was to get this surgery done, in my opinion, it would serve me no purpose, and it's not something that I want to get done because my body's natural inclination is to close the hole. When your body is wanting to close a wound and a hole, it's gonna do it pretty fast. Like my piercings have closed in really fast multiple times, and I've had to reopen it. Doing that multiple times a day to keep that hole open so I can perform a very basic human function of removing waste does not sound like something I would like to do. Like going to the bathroom at this point in my life is a very trivial thing that takes like 15 to 20 seconds at the most. And suddenly I'm going to have to dilate and keep a wound open so I can perform a very basic human function that everybody does. That's not something I want to do. That sounds like a lot of time investment that's not worth it. There's also a lot of times I go into nasty ass female restrooms, and I've talked to enough women to know the horror stories of female restrooms. And I go in there and I'm like, this bathroom is disgusting, but I need to go to the bathroom and I'm in a female setting, so I will sit down on it. When I'm home, I stand up. It's just like, that's just what I do because it takes 15, 20 seconds. It's not hard. And the thing with me is that I don't feel that it's necessary for me because no one's looking at that part in a given day. It does not really come up in normal conversation that I have with people. Most times people gender me as female is when they're looking at my outward appearance. They're looking at the makeup, they're looking at the hair, they're looking at the fake nails, they're looking at the outfits, they're looking at the body structure. They're not looking down at your bulge and be like, oh, that's a trans girl because there's a bulge. No. And besides, I tuck. Tucking underwear is $20 to $30 and it takes like 5 seconds to tuck once you get it down. And the tuck will generally hold throughout the day. It's not very hard. And the main thing is that having this surgery done adds a lot of time and commitment in my life, as well as monetary prices that I don't feel is worth the benefit of having a vagina. It will not serve any purpose. It's not gonna function like a real vagina. It's simply like, I almost view it as like a cosmetic surgery in a lot of ways, because it makes it so you don't have a bulge down there. And it's like, okay, I spent all this money just to have no bulge? No, that's not worth it. And so that's my opinion on why I do not want SRS, because I view it as not necessary to my transition. I am fully comfortable being a trans woman with male anatomy. I have no issue with that. I tuck. I'm very respectful to women. I do not stand up in bathrooms. I do not view it as something that I have to do as part of my transition. I want my facial hair removed. I want slight FFS surgery, and I want my breast augmentation. Beyond that, I don't want to touch anything else because I am perfectly fine being who I am. Now, let's finish off this video and get to the end. Hey all, thank you for watching this video and keeping the comment section respectful. I'm pretty sure it's not, but thank you for watching this video. And I wanted to do this video in a very easy, kind of digestible way, because this is a very big topic when it comes to transgender topics. And this is a very divisive and controversial surgery in a lot of people's eyes, and everybody has opinions on this, and I wanted to give my opinion on it, and I just wanted to give the facts and just keep it straight and keep it narrow. I talked about the positives of it, how a lot of trans women see a lot of really good positive effects from this, where they view themselves as real women once they get it done and have their male anatomy turned into female anatomy. I just don't see it as that, because I view it as an unnecessary thing for my transition that causes a lot of issue for my body naturally to kind of get through. Now, that's kind of how I view it. However, we all have our opinions, and please respect mine. I hope I have given this subject its due and its fair assessment of both the positives and the negatives and the consequences and the positive effects about this surgery. Now, in the future, I may do a revamped SRS surgery video on Patreon where I go into the detail of how they actually do it, because the process of how they do it is fascinating beyond all manner of the word. It's really amazing how they perform the surgery, but for YouTube monetization purposes, I cannot do that because this video would be demonetized and probably banned instantly if I got into the detail about this. And so, thank you for watching this little YouTube video. Please like and subscribe, with those comments in the comment section. Hit the notification bell to never miss a video. Give a super thanks if you're feeling extra. Please keep the comment section respectful so that if anybody finds this video, they can see a natural discussion down there. If the comments are a little extreme, I will remove them because my video is not the place to talk about Mein Kampf comments. And so, thank you for watching this YouTube video. This has been Nikki Chanel. Love you, honeys.